Right. So when I call your name, please unmute, respond, and then mute back again. Morgan Hannigan,
Hello.
Lynette Henley,
Here.
Tiffany Jones. Oh, she's on the screen, so she can't do that. Michelle Pellegrin. She was just here. Michelle, I think, is still here. Karen Sims.
Here.
Jackie Arnold.
Here.
Paula Bauer.
Here.
Monica Brown.
Here.
Corey Penrose. Corey Penrose. His alternate is Jacob Gran. Okay. So Tom, I guess you can check if either one of those comes into the waiting room later.
Yes, ma'am.
Steve Young.
Here.
Vernil Brumfield.
Here.
Danny Espinoza.
Here.
Bonnie Hamilton. Bonnie Hamilton. Steve Quinlan. Steve Quinlan. Kelly Welsh. Kelly Welsh. Jim Hardwick.
This is Laverne. I'm sitting in for Jim.
Oh, sorry. Oh, so you're here for, okay. Laverne is here for Jim. Perfect. Margie Olson is here. Bridget Hunley. Bridget Hunley. Andrew Hunley. Andrew Hunley. Kevin McNamara. Kevin McNamara. Emily Gollinger.
I'm here.
Okay, perfect. Jeannie White.
I'm here.
Jeanette Wiley, I'm here. Jana Modena.
Present.
Miguel Castillo. Miguel. Deborah Dixon.
Jeanette, Miguel is in the meeting.
I couldn't unmute. I'm here.
Okay, thanks. Okay.
All right.
I got Miguel checked in then. Deborah Dixon. She was trying to get in a while ago. Is she in or not?
I have not seen the request come through.
Okay. Jerry Castanon. Norman Powers. Pat Toth Smith.
Here.
Danny Bernardini.
Here.
Lynette Henley. No. Rhonda Smith.
Present.
Don Lowry.
Here.
Carrie Birdseye.
Here.
Mona Whitney Jacobs. Mona. Natalie Hannigan.
Present.
Thomas Bilbo.
Here.
Brenda Crawford.
Here.
Okay, and we had calculated, so that's our quorum for our
Jeanette, you
members.
didn't call my name.
Who's that?
Steve Quinlan.
Oh, I did call your name, so I will mark you up.
All right,
Yes.
thank you.
So Jeanette, can you give me
Did you
the
call
total
my name?
now?
Pardon me?
If you guys that are not on executive board could hold for a minute, there's a few things we need to make sure we have in place before we move to the next item. So can you give me the count?
My name, Jeanette, did you call my name? This is Michelle.
Yeah, we have you.
Yes, I called your
okay.
name and I marked you present because I see you talked earlier.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Jeanette, sorry, this is Rad filling in for Kelly Walsh. Am I
Okay.
as well?
Okay. Thanks.
Corey Penrose just texted me too that he's trying to get in but can't.
So Lynette, did you ask for the count?
Yes, please. So we know what our quorum is.
$28, and if Corey's trying to get on, that's 29.
So currently we have 28.
Right,
If Corey checks in, we'll move it up.
right.
Thank you.
So I just, for the people that are missing, see if they've come in since then, Bonnie Hamilton, Bridgette Hunley, Deborah Dixon, Jerry Castanon, Norman Powers, and then everything else is covered by the person or the alternate. Okay.
Could we move to the slide with the agenda, because I forgot to have us approve the agenda. I went straight into my introduction. And the agenda is vote to approve the agenda, introduction to the meeting, vote on the format, discussion for and against rescinding the endorsement, having a vote, and then adjourn.
So Margie, we're at the motion to 5 for, 5 against.
Can we table that and approve the agenda?
Move to approve the agenda.
I second.
Thanks. Do we have a poll for that, Thomas?
We do, but
You don't want to put it up? Okay.
no, it's just that with everyone else that's in, I mean, there's 51
Jonathan
people.
Cook has also reached out to me, trying to get in.
I'm sorry, what's that?
I said Jonathan Cook just reached out to me as well, letting me know that he can't get in.
Let me see if he registered. No, he didn't register. I'll take care of Jonathan. So do you want to do the poll? And so we know that 28 people should vote.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is for the agenda.
Yeah. And if you can count myself and Tiffany.
Jeanette says for members only.
Yes.
Members only, yes. You're muted.
And if you can count, I guess, because both now Tiffany and myself cannot vote. So you've reached the limit. There's 25 people have voted, or 25 people voted yay. 1 is a abstain. And then with Tiffany and I, that's 20. Yeah, so I think we've hit that. I'll end polling, share results. So it passed.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, we can move to the vote on the 5-5. And we were doing a roll call for that. Oh, yeah, Jeanette, you're muted.
Well, you went through it kind of quickly since the slide was up. I didn't know if the slide would become up again, but okay.
Here we go.
So read it one more time.
So the format recommended is to have 5 committee members speak in favor of rescinding the endorsement and 5 committee members speak against rescinding the endorsement.
And it will take 2/3 majority. So
Yeah.
I'm going to call the people who before, if you weren't here before, we'll get you on your time then. Morgan Hannigan,
Aye.
Lynette,
Can I ask a
Sorry,
point of order?
Sorry,
Point of
sorry.
information.
sorry.
Point of information.
Yes,
Is
Karen?
there any discussion about this before it's voted on?
We could allow discussion.
Yeah, I think we're supposed to have discussion.
Yeah. If you'd like to say something, put your name in the chat.
Raise your hand. Everybody can raise their hand.
Well, we can have them put their,
If you go to the chat and open it up, you're gonna have a confusion.
If you raise your hand, it goes by first come, whoever raised their hand first as well. So you could go down the list.
okay, so go to
participants. Go to
participation
participants.
and raise your hand if you would like to speak.
Okay, are we ready for the
And Neil's
participants?
going to call on the,
Okay, the first one I come to is Paula Bauer.
Yeah, I just wonder what the procedure would be if we choose not to go 5 for and 5 against. That just opens it up to a number of people being able to speak, right?
that's correct. We would continue the discussion until a motion to close.
Jerry Castanon? Your hands up? Jerry no?
You probably have to unmute yourself, Jerry.
He just muted himself.
Okay, you're open, Jerry. You have a comment for discussion? May I move on? Jerry Castanon, are you on?
Yeah, he's on.
His hand is raised.
Well, go to the next one. We can come back to him.
Karen Sims?
Yes, I'm speaking against this. The format was recommended by the executive board. I don't know when the recommendation was done. I know that this came up and we were instructed to have a 3-3 vote in the August meeting. I put it on the agenda. It was delayed from the agenda by request of the chair, who said that she would delay this kind of discussion or this kind of limitation until after the election. And now we come for a special meeting and we've again decided that we're only going to allow 10 people to speak. There's 30 people in this group. I don't know how many people would like to speak on this issue, but I don't think that there is any permission or there is nobody who should be limiting the number of elected officials who have a right to speak about something that affects voters. Time maybe, but we don't have that right now. But to limit the number of people, I say it strongly against.
Lynette Henley?
I move to close debate on this issue.
I'd like to speak.
I just have a question.
Point of information, if there's no second,
There's no second.
Yeah,
So
there's no
we'll
second.
continue.
I second. But I also want to voice that Jonathan is still not able to get in and he's quite concerned.
And same with Corey Penrose. They keep texting me as well.
Corey is in.
Okay.
I'm in, hi.
Yeah, and then Jonathan is coming in. I sent him the link. He said he registered and didn't get the link, but I sent it to him. He's my alternate, so we're good.
Is there a motion with the second on the floor?
Well, you guys can keep going through your whole list of people. I'm willing to wait. I ain't got nothing else to do tonight.
But there was a second by Morgan. I'm just asking for a point of
So
order.
we have to have 2/3 to close debate. So
Okay.
it's moved and seconded that we close debate on this topic,
So we need to vote.
and we need to vote. Yeah.
Okay, this is a motion to close debate.
And I'm sorry,
Morgan Hannigan.
Aye. And this is just to close debate on the format, correct?
Yes.
On deciding the
Yes.
format.
And then just
Thank
for, if we close the debate on this and vote, if it's voted up, we go with it. If it's voted down, then we have more debate. So that's what this is for. Lynette Henley, close debate or not?
Aye.
Tiffany Jones,
Aye.
Michelle Pellegrin,
Nay.
Karen Sims,
No.
Why are
Jackie,
we doing a poll?
Jackie Arnold.
What are we polling?
Because whether we are going to close debate on this issue.
you limit 5 people speaking.
Yes.
Are we not via poll or out loud?
Well, the poll is because there's 60 or 80 people in here. It's difficult with the poll because anyone can vote. It can't just go for members. Okay, so Jackie, were you voting yes to close debate?
Yes.
Paula Bauer,
No.
Monica Brown,
No.
Corey,
Aye. Close debate.
Steve,
Close debate.
Vernil,
Aye.
Danny,
Abstain.
Bonnie, still not here. Steve Quinlan,
Oh, I answered for Steve Young.
Not, what happened?
oh, Hugh answered for Steve Young.
Yeah.
So Steve Young, what's your vote?
No.
Okay. And Steve Young, Steve Quinlan, you're voting no, right?
Close debate.
Okay.
Yeah.
Brad,
Yes.
Laverne,
No.
Margie,
Yes.
Bridget, not here. Emily,
No.
Jeannie,
Yes.
Jeanette, yes. Jana, Jana Modena,
Yes.
Miguel,
No.
Deborah has not come yet. Jerry Castanon was raising his hand. So Jerry, are you here now? Norman Powers, not here. Pat,
No.
Danny Bernardini,
Yes. Close debate.
Rhonda,
Yes, to close.
Don,
No.
Carrie Birdseye,
No.
Mona, have you come in yet, Mona? Natalie Hannigan,
Is there not going to be a discussion after the 10 speakers?
No,
this is
No,
just,
okay.
this is
Close
just
debate.
yes or no?
yeah, she said yes. Tom
No.
and Brenda.
No.
Brenda was what?
No.
Okay. I have 13 no's, I think.
I have 13 no's and I have 16 yes. The motion fails because we need 20. It's a 2/3 vote to close debate. So
Okay,
continues.
okay.
And Tom, can you get some polls ready so we can do this? Because it's going to come up again.
Sure.
Okay, the next one on the list was Scott Kendall.
Thank you. My question was, if somebody is not a member under any of these scenarios, would they have an opportunity to speak?
Not in this, there's no public comment. So if you're from the public, you can come to our meeting on next week on Wednesday. And there's a public comment time.
And the last hand I see raised is Emily.
Thanks. I just had a question, and it's kind of similar to what Scott said. When it says 5 committee members, can somebody please define committee member for me? And who makes the determination who gets to speak tonight and who doesn't?
Well, the committee members are members of the Solano County Democratic Central Committee, and these are elected officials and people that are appointed by elected officials and club representatives. So that's who votes, and the determination of who is speaking will be by the vice chair, Vernil Brumfield, who will be looking at the time-stamped requests in the chat.
Madam Chair, point of information. It also includes alternates if they are here, correct?
Oh, that's true. They can speak. That's right. I'm sorry. Yes, alternates to the Central Committee members can speak.
Point of information. Can the committee member yield their time to someone else that is not that is a member of the public?
No. I'm going to refer that to the parliamentarian.
No.
I believe Lynette Henley's our parliamentarian, so I was waiting to hear from her.
Did you want me? Hold on.
Did you hear the question?
No, I did not hear the question.
She's asking, can a member of the Central Committee give their time to someone else?
That was not, that has never come up, because the only time that the public can be in the debate is during public comment. So I would have to say that no, they cannot give their time. But hold on, because I just hiccuped. But it's up to the Central Committee if they want to allow a Central Committee member to yield their time to a we have to vote if we want to hear from a non-Central Committee person to speak. So it's up to you guys. But normally you would not have them speaking outside of the public comment time. And that's how our meetings have run for the last however many years. I say the last 8 years that I've been there.
Point of information.
Steve.
Yeah, so my chat is disabled and I've had my hand up. I never got called on, so I don't know how I can get recognized. It says chat is disabled.
Yeah, it says it on my screen too.
We have disabled chat for now until we go into where you need to, for the main motion that we're here for, you would raise your hand in the meeting. I don't see your hand up.
You see me at all? I'm waving my hand.
I'm talking about, okay, no, I see, yeah, I see on screen, I see your hand, but that's only because you're now on my screen and I'm in the middle. But down on the Zoom toolbar,
yeah,
you need to raise your hand from that.
Under participants, go to participants and you click on participants, and then it says raise hand under participants.
Oh, okay, I got it. Thank you.
Now we see it.
Okay. Margie, we're back.
Okay, moving on.
Unless Steve wants
Are
to.
there other people who wish to speak on this?
Steve's hand is up in the chat now too. I mean, up in the.
No, it's not. In the screen is up. Yes. Steve, your hand's up.
Yes, thanks. Yeah, I don't understand why. I believe every committee member should be allowed to speak tonight and comment on this in either direction. I don't think it's necessarily something of this import that's being watched by this many people. Every committee member has a right to be heard, I believe. And I would actually make a motion to that effect with perhaps a 3-minute time limit on committee comments. But I would not like to see a limitation to just 5 people on each side of the issue.
Well, if this doesn't pass, then that's exactly what happens. Although we have a 2-minute time limit on each person.
Point of order. Actually, it wouldn't be a 2-minute time limit. If we vote this down, then it reverts to Robert's rules.
Margie, are you going to call on the people with their hands raised, or do we just all come off and just start talking?
Sorry, that was my fault. I should have raised my hand. I apologize.
And right now, the vice chairs are calling on people.
Except it was a point of
the
order.
chat
No,
was
point of
disabled.
order. Point of order. Point of order. It was a point of order, so Lynette is incorrect. It was a point of order.
You have to raise your hand.
No, not for a point of order. You do not.
Point of order requires the chair to recognize you. You can read Robert's left, right, and center. The chair has to recognize you and then find out what you're stating your point of order is. So you can scream it out if you want to, but
okay, let's moving along.
Yeah. So Michelle, did you make your statement, your comment?
No, thank you. I do need to finish it. So my understanding, Margie, is that if we vote this down, the 2-minute time limit is not part of Robert's rules. So it means that it would revert to people being able to speak for 10 minutes each. So that's why, anyway, I just need clarification on that because that's my understanding. There is no 2-minute time limit is my point of order question.
Well, I'm going to have to defer to our parliamentarian.
Unless a time limit, which is who is somebody talking now? I don't get this. Unless a time limit is requested by the membership and approved, then it reverts to anybody can speak for 10 minutes, up to 10 minutes on any item. We only have one item. So if one person speaks for 10 minutes, that our one item is to vote this up or down. So they can speak for 10 minutes and then we go to the vote. That's Roberts.
Natalie, it's been recognized through the chair.
Thank you. Can I amend Mr. Steve Young's motion and limit it to 5, still do the pros and cons of 5 people, and then also everyone have their 3 to 5 minutes to say their piece?
Well,
discuss.
we have a motion on the floor.
Right, I'm asking to amend it to add to that because he wanted everyone to speak.
So I think
maybe we should vote this, the motion on the floor up or down and then go to.
And so Margie, they can make a substitute motion to whatever Steve wants to do and Natalie wants to do, because we're back to the main motion, which is, can we see it on the screen, please?
Yes, give me a second. Give me a second.
And it probably should stay up. The motion before you right now is to do 5 for, 5 against, 2 minutes speaking.
No, that's not the motion.
Yeah, I know that's not your motion, Steve. Just hold on. I'll get to it. What yours is what we call a substitute motion. So this is the current motion, and Steve Young's substitute motion is, and Tom, you're going to need to write this, and Steve, make sure I'm saying your words correctly. Your substitute motion is that all members of the Central Committee will have an opportunity to speak with a maximum of 3 minutes speaking time.
That's correct.
Point of information.
And Natalie, we need to go to Natalie because she's seconding that motion. And what did you want to add, Natalie?
Point of information.
Oh my God, can you we just get us to the motion first and then you can
ladies.
I'm sorry, I want us to follow the procedure, and my understanding is that the vote that's on the floor is to curtail debate. Is there anybody here that that's wrong?
I wasn't.
Matt,
I was okay.
Please mute her, everybody, and let Natalie tell us what her addition to Steve's motion is. Natalie,
From my understanding of his motion is to have the 5 pros and cons and have everyone have their 3-minute.
No.
And yes, I would like some discussion before our vote.
okay,
And limit that discussion to.
okay, so Natalie, your motion, his motion is not what you're saying. Steve's motion is that the entire Central Committee will have an opportunity to speak for up to 3 minutes per person. Are you seconding that motion? That's a yes or no?
Yes.
Okay, now, Margie, go to the point of whatever Karen's trying to point.
Now, don't we, as the e-board that proposed this, have to accept Steve's?
No, it's a motion. These are just motions. We vote them up and down. You got the first motion, which is from the executive board. You have the substitute motion from Steve Young. Karen has a point of something.
How professional. My response or my question is that we had started voting on whether to, we were in the middle of voting on curtailing discussion on this issue. And so now we have a motion. And my question was whether or not we continued with the curtailing of the discussion, or do we go to the motion?
Okay, so let me explain what we just did.
We voted down curtailing the discussion of this motion. So that's why we're.
So do you understand where we are, Karen? The motion to curtail the discussion on whether we have this, that motion failed. So that brought us back to the motion that's in front of you on the screen. And now we have a substitute motion from Steve Young to let all members of the Central Committee speak up to 3 minutes each.
Now I got it.
Okay, so now the motion chair is Steve Young's. We vote that one. There's discussion on that now, whether, if for or against the new motion. If that motion passes, this motion that's from the executive board goes away, and then we have to vote a second time to ratify what he has done.
Did we have a second on Steve's motion?
Yeah, Natalie.
Oh, yeah, right, Natalie.
Oh, I thought Natalie was proposing something else.
I was adding something different because I did want to have the pros and cons.
No, there's no second.
Second the motion as presented.
I'll go ahead and retract it.
If Natalie is retracting her second, I will add mine.
We got a bunch of people that have second. Let's go to the motion, Margie.
Oh, okay, so it's been moved and seconded that we have everyone on the Central Committee able to speak for 3 minutes.
Now it's discussion.
Now we have discussion on that. And Vernille is going to call the members for discussion.
Monica Brown.
So, Steve, would you mind if we just made it 2 minutes and everybody could have a chance to speak? Could we make that change in your motion just for 2 minutes each?
I would accept that.
Scott Kendall.
Yeah, thank you. Question is, would Mr. Brown be entitled to speak even though he is not a member?
No.
No?
Sorry.
Thank you.
He's not a member. Just members.
Okay, Morgan Hannigan.
Okay, a couple of things. One, Hakeem would be able to speak because he's my alternate. And then the second thing I want to do, can we call the question? Can we call the vote on this issue, the substitute motion, please?
Is there a second to call?
I second.
I've been having my hand raised for a while, so can I speak before you call the motion?
Who is this? I don't see your hand in the chat in the Who is this?
In front of me. It's Pato Smith.
Do you know how to click the participant button at the bottom and raise your hand that way?
Okay, that's new to me. Okay. 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 Gotcha. Okay, I learned something. My hand's up now.
Yes, it is. Pat
Okay.
Smith, yes, go.
Okay, what I'm wanting to say is this is an issue that affects a lot of people, domestic violence. And I know personally it affects me. So I really think discussion needs to take place from all members. So I'm encouraging everybody not to limit our discussion and what we need to say about this. So I think people should vote for Steve Young's second motion to allow us all to speak, and 2 minutes is fine. I prefer 3, but 2 is okay. So that's my input.
I don't see any other hands. Oh, wait a minute. Lynette Henley, you're in the hands up now. Yes.
Thank you. I just want to caution you as the discussion moves forward. Remind you what the purpose of this meeting is for: to rescind the endorsement of Hakeem, of the mayoral candidate, That's really all you need to be speaking on. You don't need to bring in all that other stuff. And I think if we went to a vote, you'd be surprised at how the vote would turn out. But if we want to continue to churn this butter and continue to go back and forth about domestic violence and all of that, the only thing that we had was his information from his questionnaire.
Yeah.
Point of order.
Margie, can I finish, please? Thank you.
Point of order.
As soon as I finish, you can have all the points you want. The other piece that you have to think about is in our code of conduct from the state party is you can say what you want about a person, but be very careful how you frame it, okay? Especially the people that are electeds on the central committee. Many of you have crossed the line in some of the things that have gone forward. I'm not, we just need to remember we're here for this one item for the purpose of rescinding the endorsement of the mayoral candidate. Most of us know why we're here. Most of us know what has brought us to this. Most of us are ready to vote. But if we want to spend another 2 hours, we haven't even gotten to that. We've been here 45 minutes now about the rules. Thank you.
Point of order, Madam Chair. This is Jonathan Cook.
Yes, Jonathan.
I'm just concerned that the parliamentarian is trying to editorialize the meeting instead of having it run through the chair. That is what I would like to say.
I'm raising my hand as a member of the Central Committee.
We are going to move to the vote. It's been moved and seconded that, and this has to pass by 2/3 also.
Maybe that was because he wasn't given much of a chance, but I do think he scored some points really against Biden, against Trump, particularly on immigration, when they were talking about the children.
I think we need to mute somebody.
Trump said they are so well.
We hear somebody's TV.
I think somebody's watching the debate, but Jeanette, could you call the vote? Unless Thomas has a poll.
All right, so this is a vote to accept or not accept the motion that Steve has saying that every committee member should have the opportunity to speak if they wish, and they would be willing to limit it to 2 minutes because that was amended and accepted by Monica Brown. All right, so that's what this vote is for. Morgan?
Nay.
And if this fails, we go back to the other vote too. Okay.
Can you explain that one more time? I'm sorry.
This vote is to allow whomever wishes to speak from the member, either the member or the alternate, not the general public. If they wish to speak about the issue, whether or not to rescind the endorsement, they will have the opportunity to do that. We will not limit it to 5 people for and 5 people against. This will have a limit of 2 minutes per speaker. That's all part of the motion. Okay. Morgan?
No.
Lynette? Lynette?
No.
Tiffany?
No.
Michelle? Michelle?
Yes. Sorry, I was muted.
Karen?
Yes.
Jackie,
No.
Paula,
Yes.
Monica,
Yes.
Corey,
No.
Steve Young,
Yes.
Vernil,
Yes.
Danny Espinoza,
No.
Steve Quinlan, Steve Quinlan,
Yes.
Rad,
Yes.
Laverne,
No.
Margie,
Yes.
Emily,
No.
Jeannie White,
No.
The rest of their lives. Yeah, actually, because he was name checked, let's actually bring Jacob.
Jeanette Wiley, no.
Literally.
Jana, Modena,
No.
Miguel,
Yes.
is Deborah Dixon here yet? Is Jerry Caston on here to vote?
Yes, Jerry's here. He's raising his hand.
Is that a yes or a no?
I'm assuming that, is that a yes, Jerry? I think there's an option for yes.
I'll come back to
Having
that.
mic issues.
Okay, Norman Powers is not here. Pat Toth Smith,
Yes.
Danny Bernardini,
No.
Rhonda Smith,
No.
Don Lowry,
Yes.
Carrie Birdseye,
Yes.
Jerry held a sign up that said yes.
Yes. I'm using my phone now. I got off the computer.
okay. Okay, Jerry said yes. Okay, great. Natalie, Natalie Hannigan,
She put in the chat, she went to the restroom. She says no. She put that in the chat.
okay. Thomas Bilbo,
No.
and Brenda Crawford.
Yes.
Okay. So is someone else keeping the tally as I'm calling them? I thought, well, someone was
I
long
have
ago.
15 yes, and I have 15 no. It's a tie, so it doesn't pass.
Doesn't pass.
So now we're
Okay.
back to
So
the,
we're back to the 5-5, which
Yeah.
we haven't voted on.
Okay.
Is there more discussion on the 5-5?
Madam Chair,
Can we go to vote? Yeah. Yes, Tom.
I call the question. Let's go ahead and vote on this and be done.
Thank you.
Second.
Okay. So we're going to vote on the 5-5.
Okay.
Jeanette.
Yes, I got it. I was trying to write the minutes down at the same time.
Yeah.
Okay. So I did call two names a while ago, but I'm just going to start again at the top. This is whether or not to approve the motion, having 5 people speak for and 5 people speak against. Morgan Hannigan,
Yes.
Lynette Henley,
yeah. Yes.
Tiffany,
Campaign itself, yes.
Yes.
Campaign has,
Michelle Pellegrin,
No.
Karen Sims,
No.
Jackie Arnold,
Yes.
Paula Bauer,
No.
Monica Brown,
No.
Corey Penrose,
Yes.
Steve Young,
No.
Vernil,
Yes.
Danny Espinoza,
Yes.
Is Bonnie Hamilton joined? Steve Quinlan,
No.
Rad,
Yes.
Laverne,
Yes.
Margie,
Yes.
Emily,
Yes.
Jeannie White,
Yes. Is too comfortable.
Jeanette Wiley, yes. Jana Modena,
Yes. Yes.
Miguel,
No.
Deborah Dixon's not here still. Jerry
yes.
Castanon,
No.
Norman Powers. Oh, he's not here. Pat Toesmith,
No.
Danny Bernardini,
Yes.
Lynette Rhonda Smith,
Yes, and we're trying to get a telephone number for Deborah to call in. Her Wi-Fi's down. Tom, I sent you a message in the chat.
Don Lowry,
No.
Carrie Birdseye,
No.
Natalie Hannigan,
Yes.
Tom Bilbo,
No.
Brenda Crawford.
No.
And this needed 2/3 vote to pass. So
Right, it doesn't pass. So now, Margie, you go to Roberts. Is that on this, because we only have one item, the maximum amount of time of one item is 10 minutes. And so,
And the vice chairs are going to be calling.
but hold on. The person can speak as long as they want. You only have 10 minutes. Where does this time, where did that come from? So you're saying each person that's not how I read. This is a one item. They can speak 10 minutes is on it per item.
That's per speaker.
Per speaker.
Okay, you guys do it however you want. Okay, we'll be here. 10 minutes. Anybody can speak up to 10 minutes.
Okay, and for this, we were going to allow the chat, and people will put, if they would like to speak, and they should indicate pro con so we can alternate.
So not the raise hand, you're in the chat.
But yeah, we've moved to the chat for this.
Okay, I'm opening it up. And so please, members of the public, the chat is for us to run this meeting, not for commentary. If you have that, you're welcome to send that to the host. Tiffany and I will see that, we'll pass it on, but the everyone chat is to run the meeting. Please honor that for us. Thank you.
Okay, now I still have showing on my screen, I'm showing the ones who raised their hand to speak earlier.
Yeah, and then also
We were gonna vacate.
you need to specify if you're speaking for or against rescission. Right, Margie?
That's right. So Vernil, you'll be looking at the chat comments.
Okay, the chat, okay. All right, okay. Let me see, 7-0. Okay, Aristide Norman on behalf.
Clarification.
Yes, I'm here. The public can't speak, correct?
That's correct.
So what I like to say is,
But
are you ready for me or are you?
You're not
Confusion?
on the committee, so you're not, is he an alternate for the
Okay, yeah.
committee?
I'm just
He is
going.
not.
they're trying to.
Someone
get-
asked me to speak. I
Norman,
didn't invite
You'll
myself.
have to come on next Wednesday, and we'll
Okay,
have.
so we
the
need
public.
to make sure that the people that are speaking are on this central committee.
Okay,
And I'm not sure how we're gonna do that. Jeanette will definitely have to play a part in this to be able to tell you if you identify yourself. If you're not a member of the central committee, unfortunately, you will not be able to speak tonight.
did you have a comment, Jeanette? I saw your hand.
Yes, it's very clear that the for or against is for when you say for, you're for rescinding the endorsement, not for Hakeem or against Hakeem. It's for the motion, and we need to alternate for or against in our discussion.
Okay, the next name that's a member that want to speak in favor of rescission is Paula Bauer.
My speaking time is over. I'm
Are you
sorry,
a
Sarah
member?
Steve.
Is he a member, Jeanette?
Who?
No.
Aristide?
I'm sorry, Aristide, you will have to come to our meeting next week on Wednesday. There's no.
Oh, okay.
comment
I
at the
asked that, and then someone
Sorry.
said I'd come next Wednesday, and then you just asked me to speak. So I was totally confused by how this is
Okay,
going.
I'm sorry.
It's a
I
mixed
know
message.
it's
But
not.
thank you.
absolutely clear. Yes, we'll see you then.
Paula Bauer wants to speak in rescission.
Hold on. Who's timing? Am I timing? Somebody else timing?
Oh, it's not me.
Okay, all right. So I'm going to start the clock. Hold on, Paula, until I get there. You have up to 10 minutes. When you say your first word, I'll start.
Okay, Chana's brother-in-law had asked to speak tonight, and he was rejected. He was not allowed to do so, so he sent me a statement, and I'm going to read it. And if I don't have enough time to get through it, I'm sure someone else will pick up where I left off. This is his statement. The brother-in-law of Chana Brown feels the need to clarify some of the lies and false statements made by Councilman Hakeem Brown over the last 2 weeks. Line number 1, quote, "This was a one-time incident 20 years ago, just a, quote, domestic scuffle," end quote. According to court records, Hakeem Brown physically abused Joanna Cullum throughout their relationship, not just one time. He was twice convicted of domestic violence offenses against her, culminating in a 4-year prison sentence after punching her repeatedly in the stomach when she was pregnant, according to her testimony.
Can you speak up?
Miss Cullum believes she miscarried her baby because of Mr. Brown's abuse. This wasn't Mr. Brown's first time abusing a woman, as prosecutors have alleged and was reported in the Open Vallejo article. June 1994, Mr. Brown pushed a woman to the floor and kicked her in the chest. January 1995, Mr. Brown punched a woman in the mouth and threatened to get a gun. January 2001, Mr. Brown punched through a window of a woman's house. March 2001, Mr. Brown punched a girlfriend in the face and torso. Line number 2, "This is my past, I am a changed man." Hakeem Brown's aggression and intimidation against women continue to this very day. Voices of Vallejo posted testimony from 8 additional women that had run-ins with Mr. Brown from 2016 to the present on their website. Mr. Brown has documented domestic violence cases through 2012, which is just 8 years ago. According to court records, Mr. Brown has failed to pay child support and rear his own 4 children while claiming to be extremely wealthy and a mentor to Vallejo's youth. In 2018, he had a public spectacle of a wedding. However, Mr. Brown was knowingly married to 2 other women at that time. A wedding I'm sure some of you reading this attended. Mr. Brown's second wife asked for an annulment on the grounds of bigamy in the mid-2000s. How can this man speak about, quote, empowering women, end quote, and advocate for our youth? Mr. Brown's silence on these misdeeds is deafening. You must ask yourself if Mr. Brown's recent altruism was done out of the goodness of his heart, or rather was it to gain political capital or to provide cover if his violent history was ever revealed to the public. Line number 3, "The 2012 allegations against me are false and unsubstantiated. That's why the case was dismissed," end quote. To the contrary, Chana Brown's claims of emotional, physical, and sexual violence are very much substantiated by overwhelming evidence, which can be found online. Under oath, a police deputy called Mr. Brown's crimes against Chana as, quote, domestic violence bordering on torture, end quote. Chana said Mr. Brown choked her unconscious multiple times, punched her so hard in the head she had some permanent hearing loss, forced her to have sex against her will, and abused her while she was both pregnant and while holding his baby. The abuse was so extensive and so frequent, there isn't enough space to include all the horrific acts from her sworn statements to 2 different police departments. The case, a total of 12 charges, was dismissed because Chana Brown stopped cooperating, and coincidentally, Mr. Brown pled guilty to violating a restraining order. I think we can all connect the dots. According to Chana, she dropped the case because Mr. Brown threatened to kill her and her family. Mr. Brown wants you to believe everyone else is lying. Chana, her family, cops in both California and New Jersey, other victims, and only he is telling the truth. However, how does Mr. Brown have any credibility left, considering he recently held a sham wedding and called punching a woman 5 times in the stomach a, quote, domestic scuffle, end quote. Mr. Brown has said on the campaign trail that we need to, quote, trust Black women, end quote. However, now he says you can't trust any of his victims. Line number 4, I hold myself fully accountable for my actions, end quote. On October 11, 15, 20, and 21 of this year, Mr. Brown both insinuated and explicitly stated that his victims were either exaggerating or lying, a baffling position based on the evidence. That is a far cry from being accountable. If anything, that is the exact opposite of accepting responsibility. Those are the actions of someone doing damage control. These are the actions of someone who is only remorseful that his darkness came to light. As Mr. Brown stated to the San Francisco Chronicle, quote, if the people of Vallejo were aware of my record, do you think I would have won, end quote. Mr. Brown has never asked his victims what justice means to them. He has never reached out to us, never apologized. Rather, he tells us, his victims, what justice means to him. Mr. Brown only cares about himself, and all his current actions are evidence of that. He continually tries to play the victim. On Tuesday, October 20, he had the audacity to compare himself to Maya Angelou on Facebook. An odd choice, considering she was a domestic violence survivor. On Wednesday, October 21, he told the NAACP he wants to put this behind him. That's nice that he wants to put this all in the past, but what about the victims who still lie awake crying and have depression and PTSD to this very day because of his abuse? Mr. Brown, his supporters, and his enablers keep asking for compassion for Mr. Brown, which is insulting, repulsive, and tone deaf, while simultaneously minimizing the pain of his victims. Where is their compassion for the women he abused? The trauma of domestic violence, especially the horrific acts that Mr. Brown committed, don't end the day these women escape. However, Mr. Brown keeps telling everyone to move on and move forward because that is best for Hakeem Brown. Conclusion. Hakeem Brown has 9 arrests and 3 convictions for violence against a total of 5 women over 3 decades. He isn't asking for a second chance. He is asking for a 10th chance. I believe in restorative justice and turning over a new leaf, but Mr. Brown has not even taken the first step to repair the harm caused by his crimes. He keeps saying he has, but those are just empty words as his actions say otherwise. If Mr. Brown wants to make a positive impact on the great city of Vallejo, he can spend his future days volunteering to make the city a better place. He doesn't need to be a mayor or a council member to do that. It's honestly disheartening that I have to write this letter, that I have to justify my family's pain, and frankly, I don't understand why it's a tough choice for certain organizations to end their association with an unrepentant abuser of women. Endorsing and supporting Mr. Brown is condoning and normalizing domestic violence. Make no mistake about that. Carefully crafted statements can be released saying otherwise, but that's exactly what is being done. Enough is enough. Signed, Christopher Thomas, brother-in-law of Chana Brown, New Jersey. Thank you.
The next one is Morgan Hannigan speaking against rescinding.
Hi, everyone knows me, and I am not ready to turn my back on the hard work that Hakeem has done over the last 6 years for the city of Vallejo. I do not condone or approve of or anything like that about domestic violence. And I've read through the same information that everyone else has. It is denounceable, and I believe every person in this room denounces those behaviors. I do not believe that that is the man that I know now or that has served our city for the last 6 years. I believe I know this because I also have a criminal past that's a violent criminal past. And I'm not proud of my own behaviors. And I know that I've told many of you around here and in this room, and I don't hide it in any way, but it's also not something that I lead with. And I've learned over these last couple weeks that it probably is something that I, will start to lead with when I introduce myself, or when I, speak to rooms of people. It's probably something that needs to come up. And I've done my own research into restorative justice, and I probably have to find a sensitive way to reach out to the people who have been my victim, right? And this is entirely new to me. This isn't about me. This isn't about Hakeem, and this isn't about fixing the trauma that any of us may have suffered or may have caused. And I believe that Hakeem is a changed and remorseful person. And I believe that he has served our city well and should be given the opportunity to continue to do that work. Yeah, so that's my time. Sorry.
Okay, Rhonda Smith. She's speaking against rescinding the endorsement.
So it's okay to have two dissensions together?
Were we trying to alternate?
I thought you were trying to alternate, so I don't want to
Well,
go.
you're the only one that I don't see any more asking to speak.
Okay.
Okay, I did not want to be stopped.
Okay.
In case that was an issue.
I do.
I'm reading a statement. Why isn't Hakeem Brown being given the presumption of innocence? A bedrock principle of the American criminal justice system is that a defendant accused of a crime is presumed innocent until proven guilty. This protection comes from the due process guaranteed in the 5th and 14th Amendments of the U.S. Constitution. The United Nations incorporated the principle in its Declaration of Human Rights in 1948, and it was included in the European Convention for the Protection of Human Rights in 1953. Hakeem Brown is a Black man running for mayor of Vallejo. 20 years ago, Mr. Brown was accused of committing domestic violence against his first wife, Joanna Cullum. Mr. Brown pled guilty to infliction of corporal injury to a spouse, possession of marijuana for sale, and possession of a firearm. As a result, Mr. Brown spent time in state prison. This is the only time in his life when Mr. Brown has ever been convicted of charges related to violence against a woman, period. So why is Mr. Brown now being forced to defend himself against charges that have been made against him in the past that have already been dismissed in court? Why is Mr. Brown being presumed guilty? Mr. Brown is being accused of punching Ms. Cullum 20 years ago while she was pregnant, causing her pregnancy to terminate. Why? Mr. Brown was never convicted of any charges related to this. Mr. Brown was never charged with committing these atrocious acts. If there was any evidence that this had occurred, Mr. Brown would have been charged with additional crimes. He was not. Just the thought of this inflammatory accusation angers the average person, which was exactly the intention of the writer from Open Vallejo, the organization that published it. Mr. Brown has explained that this accusation is simply not true and that Ms. Cullum was never pregnant. Yet, Mr. Brown is now being put into a position of having to defend against charges from 20 years ago that were never brought against him by the prosecutors who knew the facts. 20 years later, he is defending himself to a public inflamed by unethical reporter 2 weeks before an election. 8 years ago, Mr. Brown's ex-wife, China Brown, accused him of domestic violence. Her claims were not supported by the evidence. As a result, all charges related to domestic violence or any type of violence were dismissed. Mr. Brown did plead guilty to a misdemeanor for violating a court stay-away order that was in place while the case was pending. China had traveled across the country with their child to see Mr. Brown and arrived unannounced at the door. Mr. Brown didn't want to turn her away as she and the baby had no place to stay. He admitted to this violation and was placed on probation, which he completed successfully. So again, why is it that Mr. Brown is now being asked to defend himself in the court of public opinion against these accusations that have already been dismissed in a court of law? Is it because Mr. Brown is a Black man? Is it because the same reporter took inadmissible hearsay and held them out as established truths? Hearsay is a statement that someone hears another person make and then reports that statement in court as if it were true. Hearsay is not admissible at a trial, and it has been deemed unreliable for many reasons, one of which is that the person who made the statement cannot be questioned to explore if the statement is actually true. The law permits certain hearsay statements for limited purposes. For example, certain hearsay may be permitted for preliminary hearings, but that same hearsay is not permitted for the determination of whether or not someone is guilty of a crime. The reporter from Open Vallejo took hearsay statements from the transcript of a preliminary hearing and used them to make an argument to be public that Mr. Brown is guilty of committing domestic violence. But by definition, those statements are not to be relied upon. Ethical publications understand this. Open Vallejo curiously published this article just weeks before the election. Just weeks before the election. And now Mr. Brown is left defending himself against the charges that have already been dismissed in court. These are the facts that can be verified by the official court record. The question that we as a society are left to wrestle with is, why is it that Mr. Brown is being presumed guilty? Signed, Scott Kendall.
Okay, Michelle?
Okay, so above and beyond what a lawyer says, it's completely inaccurate. The simple fact is this: Vallejo has enormous challenges ahead of it. We've got a real problem with police violence. We're on the verge of bankruptcy again. We have to deal with the pandemic. We need very strong leadership. And unfortunately, Hakeem Brown has shown to be very divisive. And what you want is a mayor that can bring people together. And we've now spent all of this time talking about this horrific things that have happened. And the fact that we're even debating it is unbelievable, but we are. So the point is that Vallejo cannot succeed with someone like that as mayor. This is a troubled person, you know. He's put himself out there. It's very Trumpian. He's put himself out there as, you know, he's the leader. He's going to fix everything. But he always has to have someone who's doing something to him. That's not the case. Most of the people on this committee worked very hard for his election in 2018. And since then, his temperament has become very apparent, and it's very worrisome. If people don't agree with him, he gets very angry. He calls them names. He's out of control. This is not the measured kind of leadership we need at this point or at any time. Someone like this should not be in elected office. You know, I am sorry that he's this troubled, but he has done horrific things, and they have not stopped. And I don't care what people say, you know, about it being in the past. It's just, I wish it were, but it's not. When you commit bigamy in 2018, you know, when you scare half the people that talk to you, this is not in the past. This is a very real thing. So I really, really hope that people above and beyond Hakeem, that people vote to rescind, because Vallejo, this is like electing Trump during the pandemic. It's not a good idea. Vallejo will suffer. Thank you.
I'm seeing two names I'm not familiar with if they're members, and that's Myra Bloodsaw.
Madam Vice Chair, they're not members of the Senate Committee, so we will not call on them. The next person is next in line is Brenda Crawford. After Brenda Crawford, it's going to be Steve Young and then Jeanette Wiley.
Thank you, Tiffany. You know, I, like everyone else, am mortified and heartbroken beyond words. But I will use those feelings and that energy to try and defeat Hakeem here in Vallejo. What I want to talk about tonight, though, is this process, how we stole the election from a no endorsement, which to give it to Hakeem. I want to talk about the process that we as Democrats, how we took a process that is so sacred and that people have died for. Many of the people I know in my family in Mississippi died for the right to vote. And we took it so cavalierly that one of the members said that we got outplayed. This is not a game. You know, we went through a legitimate process that was perverted by a lot of rules and regulations that were out of order, that were illegal, and we should not be here right now dealing with this. Hakeem did not earn the endorsement. You stole it from him, you gave it to him, and now we're here. And I don't want to deal with the domestic violence. It's too painful for me. As a child growing up in a house where my mama was beat, I'm not dealing with that. I'm dealing with right now what we have done to the democratic process. And we should all be ashamed as Democrats. We should all be ashamed if we participated in this travesty of justice, in this perversion of the democratic process. I want it rescinded because it was done illegally, not because of his background. I abhor his background just like everybody else does. But this happened because of an illegal procedure that the Central Committee orchestrated. I'm done.
Thank you. We have Jeanette Wiley's next. 4 against.
I thought you said Steve.
I do apologize. Steve, 4 against.
Steve, you're on mute.
So this is obviously a difficult thing for everybody. And I think we have to keep focused on the big picture here. We are Democrats representing the Democratic Party in Solano County. And regardless of our personal connections to Hakeem or not, I think we have to act as representatives of the party. And one of the things that is clear is that the party, the state party, has already, that they're watching what happens here tonight. The incident that Brenda talked about is a subject of a complaint with the state party. They have not acted on it yet, but what we do tonight might influence that as well. I think it's significant that the state party has already removed his name from their list of endorsed candidates in Solano County. I don't know if that means they've made their own judgment or not, but I think it is something that we need to be aware of and cognizant of the fact that we are representing the larger community here, the larger community of Democrats. Domestic violence is abhorrent. My wife was a victim of domestic violence in her first marriage, and it affected her and continues to affect her, as it does to women who have been affected and subject and victims throughout their lives. And I think it sends a chilling message if we pretend that their experiences are not to be believed. And I think one thing that is clear is that Hakeem has minimized his involvement. Whether you believe everything in the Open Vallejo article or not, I think it's clear that if you do 4 years in prison for something, it's probably more than just a domestic scuffle. And I think that failing to come clean with the extent of his record, particularly now, is problematic. And so I believe that as Democrats, we have an obligation to step up and do the right thing. And in my opinion, that is to rescind the endorsement. That's a decision that has also been taken by the Vallejo Chamber of Commerce, by Assemblyman Grayson, by Councilwoman Dew. Others who have endorsed him in the past are realizing that it's a difficult situation to continue given the nature of the charges. Thank you.
Next we have Jeanette Wiley. Then after Jeanette, in the order that I saw in the chat, will be Pat Toth-Smith and Don Lowry.
I just want to say that this is a big decision before us tonight, and we knew it was going to be a difficult decision on many fronts. The voters of Vallejo are going to really determine whether or not Hakeem is the mayor or someone else is the mayor. But we have to look at our decision on whether or not to rescind the endorsement or to maintain the endorsement. This is sort of a big precedent for the Central Committee, because this endorsement process has been difficult. But then next year or 2 years down the line or 3 years, 5 years, if someone has something to come up, what are we going to do? You know, we have to look at how this is affecting the future as well. The timing of this was so unusual that it came out, you know, just pretty recently when charges were from way back. I remember the first time that I met Hakeem, probably 8 or 10 years ago at a Central Committee meeting, and when he was introduced to the committee. Here's a young man, he's had problems, he's been in trouble with the law, we need to support him. So, I mean, when I first met him through the Central Committee, that's how he was introduced at that time. So I just want to caution everyone to know what the ramifications of this vote are. I think it's enormous. You know, both of them can be viewed in a, you know, there'll be an argument a bit whichever way we go, which is why it's been so hard for, you know, the Chamber of Commerce and BWAPA and all the other people that have changed their endorsement or you know, just had to weigh in on it. So it is very difficult. And I will say that, you know, the Central Committee did come out with a statement. We are clearly do not support, do not condone any kind of domestic violence because of its effects on, you know, all the people that are involved. So I wanted to say that it's a big deal, and tonight's meeting will not be the end of it for the Central Committee as far as the ramifications, whichever way we go.
Thank you, Jeanette. Pat Toth-Smith.
Hi, yeah, I wanted to say about Hakeem Brown that online there is a petition now that has 2,500 signatures asking for him to step down and resign. People are very, very upset about it. On Nextdoor, which is Glen Cove, South Vallejo, there is post after post from women basically saying they cannot unread the article. The article that was in the San Francisco Chronicle and also in Open Vallejo is very, very detailed of the serial crimes and the behavior, the domestic behavior that Hakeem did over many, many years. And I have to say, I can't unread it either. And it's very disturbing. There is court records that have been referred to in the articles. The court records show, and I'm going to read it from the article, Hakeem Brown has been arrested of domestic violence or related crimes in at least 9 different incidents, including 5 cases that resulted in criminal charges, of which he was convicted in 3. He has been accused of striking his pregnant partners on at least 2 occasions after 1 incident for which he was convicted of felony domestic violence. The woman lost the child. He allegedly followed women who had moved far away from him and confronted them, which is stalking behavior, which is very, very disturbing. And he has been married to more than 1 woman at the same time. This article has been widely published, and it's all over social media. It's just very disturbing for everyone, especially women like myself who has had some experience with this type of issue. I don't know how anyone could walk back from that. I guess, I know you can change, and I know you can do recovery, and that may be where his work would need to do the best good, because right now I would find it really hard having him be in charge of people's lives or women's lives or government. So I guess that's how I feel about it. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Pat. Next we have Dawn Lowry. After Dawn Lowry, we have Jonathan Cook and Emily Gollinger.
Yes, thank you. Jeanette is right. This is a serious decision that the Central Committee is facing. I don't think we should act lightly to rescind our endorsement. I mean, if you are coming into this vote strictly on how you felt in the first place about whether or not to endorse Councilmember Brown, you're doing it the wrong thing. I feel for a process, we should respect our endorsement unless we feel there's compelling evidence to the contrary. Now, as regard to the allegations from Open Vallejo, anyone who has experience with how court proceedings and prosecutions work knows that just because a prosecutor alleges something, it may not be true, but by the same token, just because the prosecution ultimately doesn't move forward doesn't necessarily mean that the facts are not true. It just means that for whatever reason they felt they could not move forward to a successful prosecution. I also know that Vallejo has a history of people using online forums and personal attacks as part of politics. So honestly, I would encourage every member to consider clearly whether you find these allegations credible in your voting, because I don't think we as a party, we as a Central Committee should be supporting an individual if we credibly believe that he is someone who is an abuser and has not reformed. But it's up to you to determine whether you feel the allegations are credible, because I don't want us to be stuck in this game of people using gossip and hearsay every cycle to try to change an endorsement they don't like. So I'm just going to encourage people to think very clearly before they make their final vote and not base it solely on where they stood with their original endorsement decision.
Thank you, Don. We have Jonathan next, and then Emily after Jonathan. Jonathan Cook.
Thank you, Tiffany. Jonathan Cook. According to the CDC, their National Intimate Partner and Sexual Violence Survey found that LGBT people, 44% of lesbians and 61% of bisexual women experience rape, physical violence, or stalking by an intimate partner, compared to 35% of straight women. 26% of gay men and 37% of bisexual men experience rape, physical violence, or stalking by an intimate partner, compared to 29% of straight men. And the statistics go on. And then for the transgender community, which experiences violence at higher rates than the rest of the LGBT community, 2015 US transgender survey found that 47% of trans people are sexually assaulted at some point in their lifetime. Among people of color, Native, multiracial, Middle Eastern, and Black respondents from the survey were most likely to have been sexually assaulted in their lifetime. And nearly half of bisexual women who are rape survivors experienced their first rape between the ages of 11 and 17. And as a gay man and as a member of the Central Committee, I would also like to remind folks of a difficult decision that the California Democratic Party was faced when there were credible allegations brought against Chairman Eric Bauman, who happened to be the first openly gay chair of the California Democratic Party. I think that we should take these allegations that are such serious allegations with great pause. And I think that the tone that we set as a body matters, and the type of leadership that we put forward and we put our stamp of endorsement on matters. And I would hope that we would make it very clear that certain behavior is unacceptable from our party, and especially from our local county party. And with that, I thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Jonathan. And then I have Emily Gollinger is next.
Thank you, Tiffany. I'm actually reading a letter on behalf of Catherine Cox. Those who know me know that I value my privacy, and it's not easy for me to share details of my personal life for no other reason than it is just that, personal. Over the past few months, I have been contacted by reporters, acquaintances, and complete strangers wanting to know details of my relationship with Hakeem Brown. With exception to one social media post, I have remained silent, not because I'm hiding anything, but because I did not feel comfortable with the tone and approach of these questions. It was clear to me that no matter how I answered, the narrative had already been set. I am choosing to write this so there is no room for misinterpretation or misrepresentation. This is my story and mine alone. The fake social media accounts on Instagram and Twitter are not mine. I met Hakeem in 2013. We built a friendship that grew into a relationship. I saw his passion for the city of Vallejo and the people in it. Because of his own troubled past, he wanted to create a pathway for others. One of the ways he did that was through Neighborhood Rising, a community organization that focused on youth, which I began helping him with and overseeing. His advocacy was what drew me to him. I knew that Hakeem had legal issues he had to clear up before we could get married. We did have a wedding ceremony, but the paperwork wasn't legally filed. We realized later in the relationship that we wanted different things and decided to end our relationship. He was not abusive during our relationship. It is not my place to speak of Hakeem's past relationships. All I can do is speak to my own experience and to the man he is today. I stood by him as he ran for city council. I saw him put in the hard work, the dedication, and the vision for a better future. His past does not erase what he has done to better himself and turn his life around. What I am seeing now is a group of people who are not content with seeing him lose an election, but are focused on destroying him. How does this move our city forward? How does destroying a man's life as he seeks to raise a young son going to help? Hakeem Brown is a man I have known for 7 years, and I state without hesitation that the man he is today is not the man you read about in those stories. And I would like to call for the question. May I?
Yeah. Is there a
Second.
second?
I challenge the chair. When you speak, you're not allowed then to make a motion.
Oh, sorry. When can they make a motion?
I call for the
In
question.
chat. Oh, I think we did in the chat.
Margie?
Yes.
Parliamentarians trying to help you. What's her,
Emily?
Monica? No, Monica. Monica is correct. And Robert, you must speak to your if you have a motion, you need to make the motion and then you can speak for or against it. So you'll have to go to either continue the discussion, whoever's the next person up, they can make a motion or later a motion can come. But if you're going to make a motion to close debate. I think that's where we are. If you want to, and then, but you need to make that motion before you start speaking for or against it.
Oh, okay.
I have a question, point of information, Lynette. Can I ask that point of information?
Margie has to recognize you.
Cheryl, yes.
Thank you, Margie. So we just went through 45 minutes to vote on everyone gets to speak. So can you, after a vote of that, can then you just decide to close to call the question?
Yeah, there's the ability to close debate is always available to the assembly. And it's up to the assembly, which requires 2/3 to close debate or not. So someone can move to close debate. We get a second. We go through the roll call again. It may or may not pass. Just depends on, at a point, people are just tired of listening and they're ready to go to a vote.
Okay, thank you very much.
So it's in order. It's always in order.
Thank you.
So just to clarify, I'm sorry, can you hear me? It's Karen.
Can I speak now or not speak?
So
or-
hold on. Hold on? I'm sorry. Just
It's
give us
okay.
a second. I do see that there are two other people that requested to speak before Emily called the question. And so before us, Madam Chair, what is the pleasure?
You have to go to the next speakers.
Well, yeah, we'll
Okay.
continue with the speaker.
Okay. Okay. I just wanted to get clarification from the chair. Thank you. So our next speaker is going to be Karen Sims, and then after Karen Sims will be Natalie Hannigan.
Okay, now I have a question before I start. My question is that you said that you needed to call the question before you spoke for or against. Is that correct?
No. No, sorry.
I didn't hear you, Karen. Can you state it again?
If you wanted to call the question, you have to call it before you speak for or against.
Okay, so if you want to close debate, that's all you want to talk about. If you want to have a conversation, share your point of view, then you're not ready to stop debate.
Okay. Well,
Did that help?
Yeah, it did. Okay. This entire discussion is breaking my heart, and I don't think that I can take any more of it. And so I would like to call the question.
I second
Call
Rhonda
the
Smith.
question.
I second. Oh, sorry.
It was moved and seconded by Rhonda Smith.
No, it was moved by Karen to
Karen.
close
Sorry.
debate and
Second, yes,
seconded
close
by
Rhonda Smith.
Rhonda Smith.
That's what I said.
Okay, so to close debate, we need 2/3. So we go to the vote. Jeanette?
Roll call.
Okay. Here we go. Morgan Hannigan.
I'm sorry, one more time. Could you repeat the question?
It is closing
motion?
debate. Closing debate. Morgan
Yeah.
Hannigan? Yes?
Yes.
I just didn't hear you. Lynette Henley?
Sorry, I was on mute. Yes.
Tiffany Jones?
Yes.
Michelle Pellegrin?
No.
Karen Sims?
Yes.
Jackie Arnold?
Yes.
Paula Bauer?
Yes.
Monica Brown?
Yes.
Corey Penrose?
Aye.
Steve Young?
Yes.
Bernil Brumfield?
Yes.
Danny Espinoza?
Nancy.
Yes.
Steve Quinlan?
Nancy.
No.
Rad Naruzzi?
Yes.
Laverne? Someone needs to mute. Laverne? Are you still here? Okay, if we hear from Laverne, we'll come back to her. Margie Olson?
Yes.
Bridget Hunley, I saw you in the participants. If you're here now, you can vote on closing debate. Emily Gollinger?
Yes.
Jeannie White?
Yes.
Jeanette Wiley? Yes. Jana Medina?
Yes, except I would like these called in alphabetical order, please.
Well, I'm doing it by districts. So
Got
that's
it.
how I'm going.
Thank
That's how
you.
my roster is.
Thank you.
Miguel Castillo,
Yes.
because I have to see if the alternate's here or not. Deborah Dixon, she never got on. Jerry Castanon,
Yes.
Norman Powers is not here. Pat Toth Smith,
Yes.
Danny Bernardini,
Yes.
Rhonda Smith,
Yes.
Don Lowry,
Yes.
Carrie Birdseye,
Yes.
Natalie Hannigan,
No.
Tom Bilbo,
Yes.
Brenda Crawford,
Is this a vote to, I'm sorry, I stepped out for a minute.
to
The
close
vote-
debate.
I'm sorry?
A vote to close debate on this discussion.
Yes.
All right, so what's the count on that? Did you count that?
I have 25, so 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. I have 29. I think we have the enough to close debate, but hold on. 1 second. Yeah, you need a 19 votes, so debate is closed.
Okay.
Okay. So debate is closed. We'll go to the vote.
So state the motion one more time.
I think Tiffany has a slide.
That looks so pretty. Yeah, look.
So a yes vote is a for and a no vote is against.
And this is a vote to rescind the endorsement. And Hakeem Brown is no longer the endorsed candidate of the Solano County Democratic Central Committee. Or if you vote against, this is a vote against rescinding the endorsement. Hakeem Brown remains as the endorsed candidate of the Solano County Democratic Central Committee. Or you can abstain. If you abstain, your vote isn't counted in any way.
And it requires a simple majority.
It requires a simple majority. That's correct.
All right, are we ready for the vote?
Yes.
I will call names and we will vote that way. Just so that we only have the people voting correctly. Okay, Morgan Hannigan,
Against.
Lynette Henley,
Abstain.
Tiffany Jones,
Abstain.
Michelle Pellegrin,
For.
Karen Sims,
Or
Jackie Arnold,
Abstain.
Paula Bauer,
Yes, to rescind.
Monica Brown,
Yes.
Corey Penrose,
Against.
Steve Young,
Move on.
Steve Young,
Move on.
Yes, 4.
Neil Brumfield,
Abstain.
Danny Espinoza,
4.
Steve Quinlan,
Yes.
Radnorizi,
4.
Laverne, I think she went off a while ago. Laverne, Margie Olson,
4.
Bridget Hunley, Emily Gollinger,
Abstain.
Jeannie White,
4.
Jeanette Wiley, against, Jana Modena,
Abstain.
Miguel,
4.
Deborah Dixon, it's not here. Jerry Castanon,
4.
Pat Toth Smith,
4.
Pat Toth Smith,
Yeah, I didn't hear her.
4.
Thank you.
Danny Bernardini,
Against.
Rhonda Smith,
Against.
Don Lowry,
4.
Carrie Birdseye,
4.
Natalie Hannigan, Natalie Hannigan, Thomas Bilbo,
I'm sorry, Natalie Hannigan, abstain.
thanks. Thomas Bilbo is 4.
Yes.
Brenda Crawford,
4.
so Lynette, do you have a count?
Yes, I have 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 26, 27, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 26, 27, 28, 28 voting. 5, 10, 15, 17 yes, 5 no, 7 abstentions.
Oh, it doesn't
You
fit.
have to declare,
Rescinded.
Margie,
Yeah. Oh,
you have to
oh,
rule.
the motion, sorry, the motion has passed. So Hakeem Brown will no longer be the endorsed candidate of the Solano County Democratic Central Committee.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor of adjournment?
Aye.
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 Okay. All right. Thank you very much for attending this meeting and giving this your serious consideration. And I will see you next week on Wednesday.